Today's movie is going to be on something called Defantine. You've probably heard of it, you probably haven't. It's made by some hack that I don't really know the name of, and I may like it, or I may hate it so much that I want to shove it up the nearest duck's anal passage. But who knows? We can give things the benefit of the doubt if we want to, so let's take a look at this 2020 presumed masterpiece, if you will. After opening with a 5th grader's idea for a movie logo that he probably forced his mother to animate, the movie begins like every other bad movie with a bunch of establishing shots. Which I admit would look pretty cool if the cameraman didn't have only one arm. Seriously, why are these shots so slanted? We're then introduced to our main character, Brother Twister, played by a pretentious and paranoid looking fella that would look like he would name his purple Shelby after a David Lynch movie. He's worried about the rising cases of an unknown illness that's scouring the globe at a very high rate, and is somehow not fazed by the fact that he has a Captain Marvel poster on his wall. His preferred movie would obviously be We Wish You a Turtle Christmas. He abandons his college dorm room and journeys far and wide to stay with his family in the house he once grew up in which will definitely not collapse in the hands of a psychotic child molester. Definitely. 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 We poorly smash cut to therapy with his brother Eugene, played by the king of profanity himself, where he admits that things aren't really going well for him, on account of the whole world dying and all.
I mean, if it wasn't for a few idiots putting an animal into a food in friggin' China, none of this would have been happening!
I'm starting to think that there was no locked-on script for this and the actors decided to do whatever felt natural. That's probably the only explanation for this horrible dialogue. Eugene doesn't like the fact that Twister's just rambling on, so he tries to talk some sense into him. And that gets him killed. Accurate response. And after that, he just ignores it. Yeah, just ignore the dead body in the other room. Back to business as usual. And it really is back to business. He's still unpacking, washing his hands, getting cereal all while humming Too Many Cooks. It's just some of the most mundane stuff. Like, there's nothing interesting of the sort being portrayed on camera. This is just the journal of the director's descent into madness. This is completely disjointed. Finally, something of interest does happen as an Iranian cosplayer breaks into Twister's room, somehow bypassing everybody else in the house. Now, it could be argued that everyone was out, but narratively it would make no sense if you factor in the time period this movie's set in.
Craziness. All this madness. Craziness. And gladness.
Oh hey, a Peter Rabbit 2 survivor! We then have a scene where Twister is talking to his dad, Jared. I don't even know why it's even in this movie. In fact, it ends before it even starts. Yeah, the movie's interested in showing the mechanics on loading a gun more than its main character's deep psyche, which, if you don't know, is not how a movie like this should work. The music supervisation. I can't believe I'm saying this all out loud. The music supervisation is trying a lot harder to tell a story than the supposed narrative is. And that's because it has some pretty amazing songs. Pink Floyd's Is There Anybody Out There, Tom Jones' Delia, Ren's Steal My Sunshine, Radiohead's Daydreaming. Those are some pretty awesome songs, and yet they're stuck in such a delusional attempt at filmmaking. We then cut to Twister unveiling a dead body that belonged to some guy named Punko, and he has a conversation with it. And then he throws it to the ground. Okay. He then gets attacked by it, he fends it off, and that's also it. Okay. We then cut to the past where Twister visits his fiancée, and oh my god, what is this? Are you sure this isn't a hidden sequel to those Japanese guinea pig movies? because this could definitely benefit from a Charlie Sheen calling the police on this crime against humanity.
Oh yeah, and before you ask, he kills this character too. Don't ask why, this movie makes no goddamn sense. Whoops, it looks like the director actually got a good shot. Okay, this is where things start to get interesting. Almost out of nowhere, this movie becomes an experimental art house flick. It has it all. A Jetty-style photography, silhouette contemporary dancing, portals that create clones that cause you to watch Animats videos for some reason, Nintendo Switches being used as phones with ringtones that sound like the compactors from Totally Spies, hallucinations, wacky camera angles, dual roles, animated sequences, pop culture references! You will never leave Lunch at this time again! Sure, it's still shot in the exact same horrific style that the rest of the movie's been filmed in so far, but I gotta give it credit for at least going in a very bizarre direction. Even if its presentation is unbearable. But it ultimately goes nowhere since Twister gets run over by a car, ultimately killing him. And we would have all been free too if it wasn't for those meddling 2 months later title cards and their mangy dog too. Oh yeah, speaking of which, during that time jump, Brother Twister uses a blood red housecoat and a Spencer's mask to revive himself, and... oh god, the movie just called time out.
And thank God, since this may be one of the most unbearable films I've ever had the privilege to watch in a long time. While I do appreciate going in a more surreal angle near the end, between its nauseating editing, horrific acting, non-existent plot, awful practical effects, even worse visual effects, and the setting that made the whole thing feel dated, it ultimately felt disjointed with the message it was trying to deliver.
Apparently this movie was majorly rushed in order for it to be released during lockdown, and it definitely shows. Shows how much of a waste of time it was, if you ask me.
Like seriously, especially in this day and age, who in the right mind would release something that's this unfinished? Me?
This is the end, beautiful friend. This is the end, my only friend. The end of our elaborate plans. The end of everything that stands. The end, no say